Hello, Powell, Butte, Shiloh Ranch. It's funny, you expect there to be sort of a dip this time of year. I know there's a lot going on, and so God's really challenged me with something just at a personal level, and I'm loving it. I got to tell you, I don't know if you guys are going to get anything out of the service today at all, but I know I will. I have battled, and I think I've been pretty open about this. I don't think this should be a surprise. I've really battled with the identity of the word pastor, and you know, it's kind of over the years, it's kind of morphed into something different socially. And you know, if you really want to get a feel for what I go through, tell the next person you sit next to on an airplane that you're a pastor and just watch. You know, I've battled through that of like, God, what does that look like? And let me tell you how I got to this point, because I feel like I'm going through a similar thing with religion in general. I'm sort of questioning the religion thing again, and I'll explain it. I mean, this is not, don't panic. If you think that what we're doing here is religion, then this is a good week to be here. I was raised in the South, and I really hesitate to tell this story. I don't want to tell this story. It's one of the more embarrassing moments of my life, and I didn't even contribute to it. We were on this tour, and I won't say names to protect the guilty, but we were on this little tour, and we were going around all these different leadership things, and we were visiting with pastors, and you know, all the things that just caused me to be like, where did I go wrong? How did my life come to this? And before it started, one of our leaders was like, everybody gather around, gather. And you can tell when someone's about to do something super religious, because they take on this like, everybody gather around. We're going to do something very sacred and religious today. So we all gather in a circle, and he's like, we need to hold hands. Okay. Because I think this is what Jesus has called me to. So I'm like, okay, I guess. This is before I moved up here. This is years and years ago. So I'm holding hands in a circle. And this guy begins, Lacey's laughing because she was there. This guy starts to tell this story about, I was just spending time with Jesus this week in the shower. And I'm like, I feel like Jesus would have objected to that. And he begins to sing. I am standing in a circle of people that are being asked to sing a song with a guy telling us his story about his encounter with Jesus in a shower. I'll never get over that moment. I will, and now neither will you. Thank you. That's right. You can suffer with me. We're family now. So let me tell you this is where my frustration with religion really began, was being raised in a part of the world where the word religion carries a lot of social power. It is my belief that the greatest flavor of Christ following does not come through positions of power. It comes through positions of service, when the power is actually, because here's the thing, if you walk into church today, you're not going to suffer for it. And that actually puts us at a slight disadvantage. Because there are people who are suffering for their faith, and they're getting to access Jesus at a level that we can't quite understand. And so, having grown up in an area where the church has all the power, what I've seen is the religion that can begin to develop around the power. When the people that are in power also run the church, and I mean social power, because, hey, when I've told you this, when I was growing up, if you told people you didn't go to church, I mean, even like in like kindergarten, they'd be like, my parents told me about people like you. So I'm questioning religion altogether, because I see the damage that it does, and especially in positions of power. Here's why: because when you're in a position of power, you stop asking questions about the other side. You stop desiring to understand opposing arguments. You just begin to operate according to your own stance. And if you're not careful, you find yourself in some weird hand-holding circle singing a song, not realizing how flipping weird that is. I will, to my dying day, defend the fact that Jesus is like, religion does some funny things. It gets competitive. It's performance-based. Listen, religion is always performance-based. You're always having to look, because you got to do it. You got to do religion. You got to perform religion. You got, okay. And I'm going to be really critical for just a minute, but don't get too excited, because it lands on all of us. It is Competitive superiority. What I mean by competitive superiority is the only way to gauge whether you're doing religion right or not is to look around and see if you're doing it better than someone else. One of the main symptoms of religion is that it's always busy. Religion is always busy. When I was a kid, have you guys ever been, maybe parents, maybe you've done it, you ever thrown anything in the oven because people showed up unexpectedly? Just hiding stuff. You're like, hi, we didn't even know you were coming by. And meanwhile, the kids in the back like, okay, you can let them in. It's like that, only spiritually. It's not about what's real. It's about what's performed. It's about what's perceived. It's about what is put on display. And Luke chapter 10, verse 38 says this. It says, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary, we know these two, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Have you ever known someone who is frantically religious? When I say frantic, I mean they're always sharing like panic-flavored stuff on social media about how the world is almost over. If this gets worse by one measurement, we're all done. No one? Am I alone? You guys maybe should friend request some people. Here's one. Frantically religious people are always trying to save someone who doesn't really want to be saved. You ever encountered that? Oh, it's awful because then you get branded with whatever they did. Like, if you've never been, you guys are actually really fortunate for two reasons. First of all, you're raised in a part of the world where this isn't quite as prevalent, but you're in a church where it's not prevalent at all. You know what I love about our kids? They're going to be raised without this stuff that I'm talking about. Thank God. Thank God. We're like, God has built a place or a space for himself. God has built us. This is a good clarification. He has built a space for himself here, and he's invited you into it. He didn't build a place for you. Do you see the distinction? I think that's an important distinction, that God didn't build Shiloh Ranch for you. He built it for himself, and he's invited you in because if you come into where he is, you start to understand who he is, and you stop acting so crazy. Jerry Hicks. If you don't know Jerry Hicks, he's always got these funny little one-liners. I think he might have invented you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. That just seems like something Jerry would say. And Jerry would say it this way, people who are crisis junkies. You ever known a crisis junkie? And if they're not in a crisis, they'll invent one. Crisis, everything's a crisis. The rapture is probably going to happen tomorrow if we can hold it off a little bit because it was probably going to happen this afternoon. Crisis. It's always crisis, and someone's going to go to hell. And here's one. We got to make sure that we publicly disapprove of sin, or else everybody's going to think that we're into it. Like if you don't condemn sin enough, everybody's going to assume that's your sin. So you have to be very vocal. Can you tell that I haven't quite gotten over my little prayer circle yet? It's so easy. It's so easy to be critical. It is so easy to be critical, but here's the problem. Before we get so excited about pointing to those religious people, here's something to consider is that it's in all of our nature. It's like something that sin does to our wiring is it wires us to sort of behave in a religious manner. Even people who are just anti-God act religious. Have you ever watched documentaries on these cults that develop? And they're like, we don't have rules. That's a rule. I mean, we can't get away from it. It's in our nature. Even when you try to reject it, you go, I don't want to go right, and I go left, and you find yourself in the exact same spot. Here's the problem, is that when we disapprove of it, we don't understand where we are guilty of it. I can't tell you how many people have walked into the church when a crisis has taken, an actual crisis has taken place in their life, and they walk in because under pressure, we have this tendency to go, God, what do you want from me? What do I have to do? What do I have to do to make you, to appease you, or to, I have people all the time like, what do I have to, and I'm like, well, similar, different church, but you get the idea. My grandpa one time, I've said this, but my grandpa one time at Thanksgiving, he prayed, and he did that when we said amen, and we're like, because we're not Catholic, and he's like, well, in case we're wrong. Have I not told that story? So if you're a person, and I have to assume most of you are, you're susceptible to religious practices, even if you're not into Jesus at all. Even when people say things like, do good things and good things will happen, that's a religion. Karma, that's a religion. Why did bad things happen to me? I've been doing good things. That's a religion. It's practices. And the only way that you can grade yourself as good is to grade someone else as bad. It's competitive. It's performance. It's judgmental. Listen, we can't get away from it. And I think people have branded Jesus and religion. And this is the problem, is that we're religious by default. That is why we study Jesus. The reason for studying Jesus and learning about what Jesus said and leaning into the concept of Jesus is because the person of Jesus rejected religion. And I know that ruffles people's feathers because we have been taught over the decades that somehow religion is a part of this whole thing. My mom and dad will watch this, and this frustrates them. They don't like that. They don't like when I don't attack religion. Now, remember, religion is taking care of the widows and the orphans, something Jesus said in sarcasm. Do your own research. His teaching, listen, here's how I know what I'm saying to be true, is that his teaching went exactly against every rule of religion. If it was a religion, Jesus created the worst business model ever. Ever. It's not based on works. Think about that. Okay, we're going to start a group. We're going to start a religion. What do you have to do? Nothing. It's already been done. Well, then what's the buy-in? Oh, I paid that. What's the superiority? Oh, you give that up. What rights do I get? None. So what's our tribe? Oh, there's not one. In fact, you have to love people who are not your tribe. What I'm describing does not sound like every church you've been to, does it? If we're not careful, it doesn't even describe how we naturally want to occur here. We are so religious. We are just by nature religious. We want to earn and we want to deserve. We want to earn and then deserve. And Jesus is going, you can't ever earn it, and you already deserve it through me. That's a terrible religion. That's an awful business model. How could you get people to give to something like that? There's a religion that started with, you guys probably know this. There have been religions that have started with people saying, if you really want to make money, you start a religion. I'm going to tell you, I agree. Hey, if it's about money, start a religion and guilt and shame people and make them feel terrible and tell them about how there's other people doing worse than they are. Because see, that scratches our competitive button, doesn't it? There are people suffering and you're not a good person if you don't contribute. Like we could do the whole religious thing. We could sit up here and talk for hours about money until someone's like, oh, I guess. Jesus didn't say, do it or else. It's a terrible religion. Like what we're doing is an awful business model. So where's the religion if it's not, what's the incentive? What are we doing here? Listen, here's the problem. We should ask why about everything, and we don't. We've been taught not to. Don't ask why. Why do we do this? Don't ask why. Why do we do that? Well, okay, why? So we don't ask why. But then the world walks in and they ask why, and we're like, we don't ask that. We've become a cult. We don't know the rules. We're just blindly following them because we've been taught not to ask why. We don't desire to understand the practices that we perform. And all of a sudden, Jesus becomes unnecessary. Like Martha going, would you tell my sister, please? She's just over there spending time with Jesus. She's not doing any of the things you're supposed to do. Make her walk away from Jesus and join my group. Exodus 32. Verse 1, it says, when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, the people gathered themselves together and said to Aaron, that's not exactly what it says, together Aaron and said to him, I'm not a very good reader. Up, they said, make us gods who shall go before us. There's more to this story. Now, if you think you've heard this story, bear with me because there's more here than you might know. It says, make us gods. Now, instantly, when we hear the word gods, we correlate that with Egypt. And remember, Egypt had a lot of gods. Make us gods. And we think that what they're doing is they're turning their back on God and they're going to follow new gods. That's not what's happening. Make us gods who shall go up before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we don't even know what has become of him. When you think of Moses like a sheepdog that's just kind of keeping everything gathered up, and then Moses goes and spends time with the shepherd, the sheep are like, we're out. It's not fun being a leader. If you've never been a leader, try it. There's always someone who's like, I won't do it that way. So Aaron said to them, take off your gold rings that are in the ears of your wives, your sons, your daughters, and bring them to me. That's the gold that Egypt threw to the slaves as they were leaving Egypt. Same gold. So all the people took off the rings of gold that were in their ears and brought them to Aaron, and he received the gold from their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool and made a golden calf. Religion is always expensive. Always. Religion will always ask you for your most valuable things. Give us your gold. It didn't say he made him a calf out of mud. He said, well, if we're going to do this, I need all your most expensive things. And as people, we're religious, and we think, well, if we give up something expensive, then we're guaranteed to get something good back. These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. When Aaron saw this, he built an altar before it. And when Aaron made a proclamation, he said, tomorrow, now listen. He says, tomorrow shall be a feast to the, capital L, the Lord. What they're asking for is give us little representations of God. Give us little gods of our own. Give us little things that we can build, that we can create, and we'll worship God through these little things. They didn't turn their back on God. They made a religion. They formed a religion out of valuable things. And they said, this is how we'll know that we're okay. They created a religion. They couldn't help themselves. Let me tell you, religion always focuses on image. And Jesus always focuses on identity. It's a word I cannot get away from this 6 weeks. I've been in it 6 weeks. There's been a lot of clarity. How many of you guys were here when Jamie came? It just added some clarity, some things that God had just been setting up. But here's the thing, religion always focuses on image. You'll know that you're suffering from a religious thing when you're worried about how what you're doing looks. Well, I don't know, do Christians do this? Here's the one I get all the time. Hey, are Christians allowed to? I don't care. Do whatever you want. Why are you asking me? I'm not worried about your image. Who are you in Christ? What does he mean to you? And for years, people have been building their own little representations of God. And then here's the problem. They build a representation of God, and then they begin to worship it. Until eventually, the Creator gets forgotten about, or actually the Creator gets in the way of worshiping the created things. You want to know how lucky you are to have me as a pastor? I know this isn't great. I know I'm not perfect. I get it. I'm not even really all that great, but you're stuck with me for now. Moses turned their idols into dust and made them drink it. You think I'm tough. Either that or maybe you guys are tough, because if I was like, drink it, everybody would be like, no. I don't assume to have that kind of power. Religion focuses on image while Jesus focuses on identity, and they are very different things. Here's the problem, and I try to remember this. If you're taking notes, this is something good to write down. They didn't know what to do. Moses went up on the mountain and disappeared, and they didn't know what to do because they didn't know how to be. They weren't asked to do anything. They said, just be here. Just be. Moses is going to go spend time with God, and when he comes back, there's going to be clarity. Just be. And when you don't know how to be, you're always going to look for something to do. Doesn't that sound like religion? Aren't we always doing something by nature, doing something to get something back? When things get hard, what do I do, God? God, what do I do? I just went through a breakup. I know what I should do. Go to church. That lasts as long as your singleness lasts. A boy. Oh, a girl. Okay, well, see you at church. Thanks, God. Got it. We don't know what to do when we don't know how to be. It's a totally different sermon, but I think some of you guys need to learn how to be before you get a boyfriend. It's a free sermon, but some of y'all need to hang on to it. Religion is what we do when we don't know how to be. Here's the truth of it, is we still build golden calves. We still build little religious representations, and they don't look like you might think. So you're not stupid. It's one of my favorite things about this church. It's one of my favorite things about you guys is that you're smart people. I don't assume that I could get away with anything. I never feel like I could stand up here and buffalo you guys and that you would buy it. I get a lot of skeptical looks, and I love it. Like, I got an idea, and it's not like everyone's like, let's do it. If I have an idea, I expect that I'm going to have to explain it. You guys are smart people. I love that. But because you're smart, the enemy's not going to trick you with a little golden calf. My dad, when he walked in, he saw Buddy the Bull in the lobby. He's like, just don't paint it gold. That's cute. Okay, Dad. But now only because you said so. Our created things will look like good things. Our created things will look like valuable things. Our created things will look like things that matter to us. Our created things will be things we can justify. Do you hear me? Our created golden calves will be things that we can justify. Let me read you a list of possibilities. Your job. Well, that's how I provide for my family. Well, if you assume you're the one that provides for your family, it's already a broken concept. Because religion says you do, therefore you get. Jesus says, because of who you are, I provide for you through 1,000 different means that you don't even see. See the brokenness in that? Well, I have my job. I have to go to my job. I'm sorry, I can't be a part of that because I have to go to my job and I have to go to work. Listen, I'm not condemning work. I'm not condemning work at all. No more than I'm condemning the existence of gold. It's what have you fashioned it into? What shape have you put it into? If it exists in your life, great. But if you're not careful, you'll take a little hint because you're a person and this is how we work. This is how we operate. And we'll take our job and we'll form it into this little weird calf shape. Salary, accomplishments. What about this one? What about your family? I'm stepping on toes. I know I'm stepping on toes. Please forgive me. I'm not asking you to not value your family. I'm saying don't put the pressure on them that they can't sustain. Husbands, wives, don't fashion your marriage into this weird little golden calf as though it's why you exist, as though the reason you exist is to be a spouse. What about, I hesitate. I'm getting encouragement from people that I know bring out the worst in me, so I'm gonna do it. But you may regret it. I was at a Pee Wee rodeo yesterday, all day, because my daughter wanted to do one event, the last one. She comes loping out of the arena, and I'm thinking, please hate it. Let's just be done. Let's just go home. Let's never do this again. Maybe this will be good, but because I'm a good dad. And she's like, I am crying because I'm so joyful. Me too, baby. Me too, I love it so much. But if we're not careful, we'll turn our kids into little idols. And we'll worship them, and we'll think that's what gives our life purpose and meaning, and that the only reason we exist is for our kids, and we're going to worry. We're not good enough parents, and it's going to rob us of our joy, and we're always going to, what can I do? I got to do more, and we're going to take on frantic, and we become the kind of parents that the kids couldn't possibly sustain. Your parents, listen to me, your kids do not deserve to be your most important, valued thing in your life. They deserve better than that from you. That's too much pressure for a kid. And it's this. It's not that kids or family is bad at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying created things that slowly begin to replace the creator in our spirit. Things that slowly get more of our time and of our attention and of our thoughts. All of a sudden, it's not long until we start to do because we don't know how to be. Religion, hey, listen, religion is always in a hurry. Always. It's always in a hurry. Always in a hurry. And the reason it's in a hurry is because we don't know how much we have to do. We know we got to do more. We just don't know what. Always do. Got to go do more. Got to throw things in the oven so that it looks prettier. And welcome. Go. Hurry. And as a result, we as, I'm saying Christians, but the religious part of our Christianity, we do so many crazy things. I'm going to tell you what. Jesus was never in a hurry. Ever. If you find yourself constantly in a hurry, you picked a good week to be a church. Mark 2, how much time do I got? Okay. Mark chapter 2, verse 23 says this. It says, one Sabbath. Because here's the deal. There was a prevailing religion when Jesus walked the earth. There was a prevailing religion, and they were very religious, and they were very good at it, and they created all sorts of they probably held hands and sang. I know it. I feel it in my spirit. It says, one Sabbath, Jesus was going through the grain fields, and as his disciples walked along, they began to pick some of the heads of grain. Imagine this. Jesus picks grain and begins to eat it as he's walking by. And the Pharisees said to him, look what they are doing. This is unlawful on the Sabbath. First point, no, it wasn't. This was a created thing. This was a created rule. This was something the Pharisees had added on. This is what happens when religion tries to overwhelm Jesus. Religion always tries to overwhelm Jesus. Religion always tries to push Jesus to the margins because we're trying to do for Jesus. We're at a Jesus bake sale. Show up. We're nuts. You guys, we are crazy. All of us. Every single one of us. We all do crazy things for Jesus. This is unlawful. You've broke the rules. And Jesus gives them the history of David. The reason that Jesus gives them the history of David in the Old Testament was because that was their rules. He goes, even according to your own rules, this is stupid. This is a created craziness. But then he says this. He says, the Sabbath, this is Jesus. This is why we study Jesus, because Jesus invented the worst religion ever. It wasn't a religion at all. It was individual. He would leave masses of people to go talk to one. That's not good religious practice. If it's a religion, you don't have time to talk to one. You've got to go gather up millions. You got to raise more money. You got to have a bigger crowd. You got to have a bigger following. And Jesus would leave that, and he would go talk to one person who, by the way, wasn't even important. And his disciples, their religious thing inside of them that we all have is like, why do you keep doing this? You're talking to a Samaritan. Ew. Jesus, you're talking to a woman. Ugh. Jesus was always talking to the wrong people. Worst religion ever. Says this, Jesus says this, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. And maybe that's where our confusion comes from right there. Maybe that's where our confusion is embedded. There's a little seed of confusion that has worked its way into our spirit and it's begun to grow. Do we have mistletoe up here? Is there mistletoe that grows up here that kills trees? But yeah, at home we've got it. It's a little thing that'll embed itself into a tree and it'll kill the whole tree, but then you'll see little bundles of this mistletoe. And that's kind of what I think has happened, is that we've misunderstood this, is that maybe this whole time we've been trying to figure out what God wants from us. And Jesus has been trying to explain what he wants for us. Can I go back? Because that's a very anti-religious thing to say. That maybe this whole time we've been trying to figure out what God expects from us. And he's been trying to teach us what he wants for us. The Sabbath was made for you, not the opposite. You weren't made to follow religious rules and build God these golden calves. And you're lucky, God, we gave it to you. What are you going to give God? It's all his. It's all his. You're not going to give God a created thing of value other than you. I was at the lease again this week. I feel like that lease has been worth its weight in gold just for the metaphors that God's been teaching me. Four-wheeler, dog, lots of stuff. And I was having sort of a dip, and Easter does that. It's really common. Talk to any of your pastor friends. After Easter, there's just sort of this like, and I was sitting out there, and I didn't even bring my headphones. I usually, if I'm out doing stuff, I've always got my headphones in. I didn't bring my headphones. I had my phone turned off, and I was just sitting. I just felt like I just needed to just sit. And I drove up next to, we got the little pond there, and I was checking water, and I just stopped. I was sitting on the four-wheeler. I didn't have the dogs, and it was silent. It was silent, and I was like, man, I'm telling you, it was like I could feel the silence. It felt great. Just silence, no sound, no distraction, no nothing, and I just sat there. And I was there for probably 10 minutes. I literally think, I think I didn't even think anything for 10 minutes. It was literally, if I could demonstrate it was just, What happened was I sat there long enough that eventually the tadpoles start to kind of come back and the fish sort of come back over and the dust that had been created by them swimming. See, because when I showed up, something happened. I came in a rush. I didn't think I was rushing. I thought I was just going through my normal day, just going through my life, just doing my thing. And when I finally stopped, what happened is I sat there long enough that I got to see life return to normal. I got to see what life was like before I got there. I got to remember that like when I'm not there, this is what it all looks like. And when I walk in a hurry, I ruin things. And I promise you, as weird as that might seem, it's like God said, you have lost your ability to be. You're really good at doing, but you're not absorbing the benefits of being. And my answer is, not proud of this as I am, my answer was, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to be. We don't know how to be. And if we're not careful, we're always got a phone in our hands. We're always on the phone. We're always talking. We're always doing something. We stay so busy that we create this path around ourselves, and we're not able to just stop and let God sort of come back in and go, deep breath, deep breath. And we know that we're missing something. You guys, we know we're missing something when we get caught up in too much do. We know that we're missing something, but we can't put our finger on it. And the problem is we can't find it in a hurry. We can't find what we're missing when there's noise. Never getting to absorb the be. So let's go back. Martha said, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me. So Martha she's just going and doing. It actually says, and this is an interesting, I learned this again the weekend that Jamie was here, but feminine values, masculine values. Now don't take the word feminine and masculine, scrap that. Feminine value, masculine value. The masculine value that goes male or female is to constantly do. Do. Let's go. It's a masculine value that is typically carried by men, but there is the ability for women to operate in this masculine. My mom, you never said I'm bored in front of my mom. If my mom walked in, you looked busy, even if you were napping. My mom carried the just do. And she's this German lady, and she just does all the time. My mom and dad are I love you guys if you're watching. But it says that listen, and I know this as a culture, is that we are very confident in our ability to do, but we've lost the feminine value of being. It has just sort of disappeared from our landscape. And Jesus says this about the feminine value. Here's the problem, and I'm teaching things I've just recently learned, is that everybody, Israel, masculine value, Rome, masculine value, Pharisees, masculine value. You know the only person that was demonstrating feminine values in the story? Oh, this is going to make people mad. Jesus. And if that strikes you, it's like, how dare you? He was the one that would get away and he would go spend time with the Father. He was demonstrating for us what it meant to go be. Jesus himself, the inventor of the worst religion ever, would depart from the masses. He would set down the do and he would go be. So when Martha shows up and goes, she's not doing, she's being. Because Mary, what did Mary do? She was just sitting at the feet of Jesus. And there's nothing that will bug you more as a doer than someone who's being a beer. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed. Jesus is going, what's important? The dishes? The food? The cleaning? The house? The planet? I don't know. What's important? He says, few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. That's just Jesus. That's just Jesus, again, furthering this terrible religion of his. What do you want us to do? Nothing until you learn how to be. Anything that you build in moments of do, if you don't have moments of be, if you don't know how to be, your do will always be building golden calves. You will constantly build golden calves in your moments of do if you haven't learned how to be. Your religion will be a religion of golden calves, and Jesus is saying, I don't need those. I've been doing math with Jet this week. We're almost done. I got 27 seconds left, and I'm going over. I've been doing math with Jet, and Jet does this thing that I used to do. We're like, okay, what's the next number? And he'll go, 8. No, 7, 3, 2, 8, no, not. You can't say every number. I mean, I respect it. I've done it. I get it. The reason that you tell Jet, show your work, is I'm not interested in what the answer is. I'm interested in how you got it. And I think in church, we've forgotten how to show our work. We're trying to skip to the answer. We're so interested in doing the right thing or saying the right thing or singing the right thing or wearing the right thing or going to the right thing or sharing the right thing that Jesus is like, hang on, stop guessing. You're building golden calves at your expense because religion is always expensive. It's exhausting. You're tired. You never have enough time. You never have enough money. You never have enough energy. You never have enough joy. Your life is getting destroyed in your efforts to build golden calves. Stop skipping to the answer. Show your work. Here's why. The work is your answer. Because the work is the process, and the process includes time. I would say this, if Jesus could tell you anything this morning, it would be this: stop and slow down. Just slow down. In your most frantic of moments, that's the definition of Sabbath, is your willingness to take a day and defy what you see and go, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it today. If Jesus doesn't do his part, I'm already cooked. I'm not doing it today. And if you can't take a Sabbath, you will burn up. And it will come to at the expense of you and everyone around you that you care about. You will be a damaging force in your life. You will not get to see the tadpoles return to life if you're not willing to set it down. And you were not created for the Sabbath. The Sabbath was created for you. Stop asking what God wants from you and start understanding that Jesus wants a lot of things for you. Last verse and we're done. John 15:4 says this: abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, you can't build anything of value at all. Why am I saying it like that? Because I'm hoping that you hear me. Quit trying to build things for Jesus. Jesus is like, I'm so tired of this. I don't need another book. Sorry. What I need is people who are willing to be. People who are willing to abide. The word is abide. Abide in me. Nothing can bear fruit on itself unless it abides in the vine. Neither can you unless you abide in me. We've got to learn how to be. We've got to learn how to slow down. We've got to learn how to stop. We've got to learn how to quit building our little golden calves out of everything that we think is so valuable. Let's pray. Lord, I know that we're going to build things. I know that we're going to do things. The idea is not to stop. That's not what I'm saying. But God, if we don't know how to be, we're always going to build the wrong things. We're always going to build religions. We're always going to build rules. We're always going to be in a hurry and frantic and trying to do. And we're not going to, if we don't understand how to be, it ruins the do. God, teach us to be people who slow down. Just slow down. Take a deep breath. Take a day and realize that, God, if you don't do it for us, it doesn't get done anyway. I think the enemy lets us have enough success to encourage us to keep going. As long as we don't see how helpless we are. God, help us to be people who identify the things that we are shaping into a golden calf. God, these created things that are slowly taking the place of the Creator. God, give us your heart. Give us yours. Here's what I'm asking. You can look up. Here's what I'm going to pray for you guys. Because like I said, this is the smartest church I've ever been in. Ever. I promise. I was in a church one time. I'm way over. I was in a church one time. And they're like, everybody dance. And we're like, everybody. We're like, I don't. Jump. I feel like I've been rescued. And you guys have helped with that. We're not stupid. We're not stupid people. We're not easy. I don't feel like I could stand up and demand anything of you, and I love that about our church. I love that we are an individual thinking people. You're already stubborn. You're all stubborn, every one of you. It's a good reflection of myself. But I'm going to pray that stubbornness gets targeted in the right direction. When you feel stressed out or like life is about to overcome you, that your stubbornness says, then do it. Go ahead. Because my belief is that everything of value comes from Jesus anyway. It's the worst religion ever, and it saves lives. When you realize that God is in charge of your finances. God is in charge of your time, that when you give him the space to operate, he doesn't operate according to our math. He gives when we give. But even giving turns into a religion. You give and he'll give you more. That's not what I'm saying. I'm asking you to apply your stubbornness in areas where you are tempted to panic. That we not become frantic Christians, that we invite Jesus into every aspect and go, hey, you're going to have to show me what you're doing because this defies what I understand. Lord, give us stubbornness. Give us an iron will to see your hand at work in our lives. Because God, ultimately, it's never been the created things that change people's lives. It's a one-on-one personal encounter with you. That's what we're asking. That's what we're hoping for this morning. Regardless of someone's belief, it doesn't even matter what someone believes. God, I believe that you're willing to communicate with people that don't believe in you. The God, it's relational and it's personal, and it breaks down the patterns of religion. I pray in Jesus' name, amen.